in that case, live. And
Very good.
I believe we're on episode 7 now of Earth, Wind and Shire, A Bard's Tale.
For a moment then I thought you were going to say Earth, Wind and Shite.
No, it's been very good. We've had entire viewer.
I'm sorry, This is exactly why we need our charity to save the Shire.
Yep.
It's attitudes like this.
So, who wants to give us a recap of the adventures so far?
Go for it, Ginge. You've not done one yet.
Well, it wouldn't do for
lads,
the DM
I think
to give
I think Motch has just
over?
volunteered to do so.
Uh-huh.
Go on,
Well,
Motch.
you see, the thing is, it wouldn't work for the DM to do it because, as a reward for doing the recap, whoever does the recap gets inspiration.
Well, just make
how
sure
about
all
this?
the, just give all the NPCs inspiration.
No. Ginge can do the recap, and then we can decide whether or not we want to give him player's inspiration to allow a reroll on one of his NPCs.
No. It's bardic inspiration, surely.
Yeah, 1d4 bonus.
Yeah.
No.
Fine. Motch, you were volunteered. You wanna have a crack?
Excuse me, I've been here the least.
She was volunteering already.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were here for the whole of last session. Just recap what happened in the previous session. You'll be good.
Make it sound cinematic, honey.
Start with the phrase "in a world."
Please don't.
No, okay, fine. You know what? I don't have inspiration. If no one else is going to do it, I will. Anybody else?
Don't start off within a world. Start this particular campaign. Start off with this summer.
This summer in this particular D&D, whose name is just eluded me because it's right in front of me. It's literally in bold capitals right in front of me. Earth, Wind and Shire, A Bard's Tale, episode 7. Like I didn't say it 2 minutes ago. And last week we were planning a bit of a con, but before we did that, Ez's character, who's
just went and got high.
Cardigar, got absolutely smashed at like 10 in the morning because he's an alky bitch, and started hallucinating, wrote some scribbles down on a piece of paper. You're just jealous because I could read and understand what we'd written on the piece of paper because I've got like the skills of comprehend languages. So I read it and went, holy shit, this is actual magic shit. Let's go to the library in the university and see if some nerd knows what this means. We went there, made some weird horses and sofas and stuff appear in their lounge whilst we were waiting, and then actually went in to see the nerd. The nerd was called what was the nerd called? Lysander, that's right. And we chatted to him after popping through a portal, and we sold him a piece of paper for some actual, stuff. A big chunk of copper or something, wasn't it?
It's an alloy. It's an alloy called alumentum.
That's the one. Anyway, that's as he's got that. He's got a big chunk of alumentum. I seem to remember Coates' character Essig went off and harassed some randos in the street.
That was retaliation for an attempted murder.
That's right, yeah.
I went back, I terrified him, demanded him give me money the next day, and I made sure to destroy his social life by making his girlfriend terrified of his voice and annoying people while pretending to be him.
Yeah, so that happened.
Yeah, you did. You definitely did all those things.
So that happened, but then this nerd that was Lysander guy who gave us the alumentum for the spell thing, weird recipe for strangeness that we wrote out, offered us a bit of he wanted to know whether we wanted to join his university and maybe do some extra planar work as adventurers. Might take him up on that, to be honest. But in the meantime, before we do that, we've got to go and con some fat cats out of all of their hard-earned dosh, because I fancy a new leather jacket. To be honest, that about sum it up.
I would say that quite nicely sums it up. Feel free to add yourself DM inspiration.
I will do that right now. That's another thing I thought I would mention is that I am going to be adding titles to my character as he achieves various things. So he is currently Bobby Twinslayer Plant. And I suppose we could also sort of Kingfisher or something like that, but Twinslayer seems like an appropriate moniker to be given so far.
Are these titles going to compound, or are they going to replace each other?
Oh yeah, they're going to just compound and get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Ah, perfect. So, we left off the previous session with the party having effectively simply wrapped things up. You didn't really do anything specific upon leaving the Grand Menagerie University. So let's just say you are standing in the foyer, looking about at each other with a look of mild confusion as to how you got here. What exactly do you want to do? And do any of you have any questions for me as the DM?
I seem to remember that we had been invited to some sort of party by a brother and sister act that was trying to chat Kiki up the night before.
Indeed.
And
specifically, the sister was enamored by the music, and the brother was enamored by Piper herself.
Halflings. Some people do tend to go for them when they're, waist height.
You island folk as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly.
So, as of right now, the actual event itself is just 2 days away. And in addition to being invited to play there as a form of entertainment for whatever high folk might be there, you are also have been informed by the local Thieves Guild that you have effectively been set up to attend this place and being given some what effectively amounts to magical papers with which you'll be able to effectively infiltrate the party for the purposes of stealing or
That's right.
scamming and things of that nature.
I meant to ask you because it was an auction, if I remember rightly. Is this the same night that this is happening on, or are these two separate events?
It is the same night, yes. It's a large party followed by an auction.
The party followed by an auction. Right. Slightly troublesome for my plans. We will have to work this out. How we are going to come about this, because my plans for the con is to do it in disguise with other members of the party, also kind of in disguise as a wealthy gentleman and his entourage. Going in there as a bunch of bards kind of gives away the game, and also it doesn't really set me up as the wealthy gentleman in need of liquidating some assets. But we can work something out around that. Perhaps find the right person and arrange for a thing to happen the next day with regards the con, so to speak. It's never a good idea to suddenly have to change a thought out plan last minute. to fit a scenario that doesn't work for it. Better to make it work according to plan rather than to wing it all of a sudden at the last moment. But we will have to see on that front, especially if we've been invited there by people who know who we are. That does give the game away, and that sends the police round to the door all of a sudden, and that's not a good idea.
Speaking of police, I assume that either this what you're saying right now, Trig, is being set above board, or your characters have made your way over to a quiet and secluded spot to have said conversation.
Quite.
Of which there would be plenty of quiet and secluded spots. The area in which you find yourselves, the University District of Varpak City, is actually a very nice area. It's not particularly packed with people. What few folks you do see wandering about all seem to be well-to-do, wealthy individuals, the intellectuals of the world, you might say. If anything, you currently stand out as being somewhat worldly in your appearance.
Oh,
It's a bit of a closed off society that you're currently in. Academics like to be that way.
Well, shall we find a coffee house / bar, etc., to discuss plans or whatever anybody else fancies doing? If we've got a couple of days before this party happens, we've been invited there as a bardic party to do a performance with them. We ought to be getting our game on that front, so to speak. But we've got time.
Trig.
Yeah.
If you can't use it to do your con, you could at least use it to gather information of where you could go next. Maybe like to find out where the gentleman's club is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a matter of finding the right people to target at this point. I think is the best bet, rather than trying to push a bad situation. It's far better to use it as a scouting operation, so to speak.
I think it's a good opportunity to get a whole bunch of people to donate to
Heart of the Shire.
Donate to charity.
I think you're right. I think you're right. This is far better for Heart of the Shire than for the sale of a brewery. In fact, we could even, do the performance and all proceeds go towards Heart of the Shire, what we're raising money for. Reach into your pockets deeply, because it's all for, the good of the nation in the whole. We're not being selfish and just trying to play music. We're here to give back to the little people.
Yeah, just to double check, everyone is on board and clued in with Heart of the Shire, right?
I think so, but Motch, what about you?
Perhaps this is the time to explain to the rest of the party.
Right,
so it's our charity, Motch. We've got a charity.
Yes, it's a charity that was founded.
Yep.
Yeah, so this charity is Heart of the Shire, and we raise money essentially to preserve and promote Shire customs and cultures, and make sure that they don't get lost to time and industrialization and that sort of thing. So
yes, and you have the pamphlets, correct?
Yep,
we do. Yes. So we're using that to essentially raise money that is. I mean, be as creative as you like. It's not a real. It is a real charity, but it's not. The money is all being donated to us.
Yep, it's a scam, but it's a good-hearted scam. We are. We're not trying to hurt anyone with it. We're not trying to do anything. It's just give to us so that the Shire folk can and benefit.
And play their songs.
Exactly, and of course that being our party, essentially. People like giving to charity. Charity
It's
events.
tax deductible.
Exactly. In fact, that might even be worth mentioning to people that, of course, that they might be able to even get some sort of tax benefit. What are taxes like in the Dwarven kingdoms? Are they particularly harsh? I understand not these taxes things. Bobby doesn't believe in paying them unless he's represented well.
Largely speaking, taxes on individuals don't tend to exist.
Based.
Unless individuals who are particularly wealthy are not directly taxed, but more socially taxed. They are encouraged to give for the purposes of improving the local community and getting their name out and things of that nature. It's kind of like it's implied that if you have money, you should spread it around for the good of everybody else. But it's not mandatory.
Ginger's like, hey guys, come play a D&D game in my world. Expand the world's lore with your own stories and adventures. And we're like, great. What's the tax return system like?
Tell me about the tax laws. Are we going to have to pay 20% or 15%? But Ginge, how does the government operate without taxes?
The government is the wealthy people who already have the money.
Oh.
The dwarves literally govern by whoever has the greatest amount of wealth gets to say what happens.
It's
you're not.
It's a libertarian
you're not playing
paradise.
the game. You can't steal my chair.
Sorry, Kiki. I couldn't quite hear what you or Trig were saying there.
She's talking to the cat.
I thought I was muted. I've stood up to adjust the fan that's pointing at my computer as a cooling device for it, so it doesn't overheat. And the cat's immediately stolen my seat.
What were you saying, Trig?
I was saying it's basically a libertarian paradise. I love it.
In some ways, it does have some less desirable aspects to it, depending on where you are in the world. But the dwarves have a very strongly family-oriented and authority-oriented based society.
Wow, traditionalism. What are you, a fascist?
Yes. Minimal government.
They literally have a monarchy.
Ah.
Also, well, you know what? Since I'm explaining the situation with the Dwarven Kingdom, I'll go into a bit more detail. You'll notice that on the world map, it's Vrangan Oriag, the Dwarven Kingdoms, plural. That's because the Dwarven Kingdoms are actually separated into a North and South territory, the North being Uriag and the South being Vrangan. The North is a direct monarchy and it's kind of like an England versus Scotland kind of scenario. They're two separate nations, but they're also the same country. And there's a monarchy, but there's also a separation of power for the second capital. The main capital, the place where the true highest power lives, is Warrenheim. It is an underground, cavernous city, which is literally a gigantic underground artificial cave with a basically small skyscraper-sized industrial foundry of sorts anchored into place, and the city itself surrounds that structure on the bottom of the cave floor. It's effectively a giant city foundry. It's very, very industrial in there, and part of the issues that I mentioned earlier is that if you are not particularly wealthy, you have to deal with the industrial pollutants, which don't have the greatest airflow inside a mountain. The city of Varpak, by comparison, is less industrial and more erudite in its nature. It's responsible for the development of all of the technology that Warrenheim takes advantage of. That being said, whereas Varpak is, whereas Warrenheim is headed by a hereditary kingdom and royal family, the city of Varpak, while subservient to the royals, have their own ruling council. The ruling council being made up of the particularly wealthy and powerful individuals who have achieved their stations of power by effectively having the wealth and means to be able to push their influence through the various necessary channels. So in some ways, it's a libertarian paradise. In other ways, there's always someone above you, and you may or may not have the opportunity to kick them out of their seat of power, depending on how up the totem pole you yourself already are.
I see. Classic monkey tree structure.
Hmm.
You know the monkey tree structure?
I don't.
It's a tree full of monkeys. And all the monkeys
Oh,
at the top
I
of
get
the
it
hill,
now.
at the top of the tree, look down and see lots of smiling little monkeys. And all of the monkeys at the bottom of the tree look up and see a big bunch of arseholes.
Yeah, that kind of fits.
No, it made more sense when it was a tree full of monkeys.
It always
But
was.
yes, there are, generally speaking, the more wealth you have, the more power you have, but the less freedom you have. The less wealth you have, the less power you have, but the more freedom you have. With power comes recognition, and with recognition comes responsibilities and things of that nature. You cannot simply be the owner of, say, you cannot be the head of a dwarven household without having a great many expectations levied upon you. But yes, with that little bit of additional lore dumped onto you all for further reference, you are currently in the university area of Varpak. The 3 universities are the Grand Menagerie that you are already familiar with. Their business is basically comes down to the exploration and exploitation of the various realms outside of the prime material plane you find yourselves on, as well as the exploration of this prime material plane, that being exploring the wilderness, making contact with the other continents, and also occasionally sending expeditions out into the Elven Kingdom, the Tater, and also Draconia. Basically areas where the Fire Iron Concordat has limited reach. Speaking of the Fire Iron Concordat, that is the main benefactor and effectively brainchild of the FIC University, which is a university designed to allow the students there the opportunity to experiment with Firestone-based technologies. Firestone effectively being a heat-generating stone that is imported from the elemental plane of fire. In terms of its potential use, think what if coal but charges itself up over time instead of being permanently expended.
Useful.
And the last of the 3 universities is known as the Alabaster Lyceum. The Alabaster Lyceum is noteworthy for 2 reasons. First of all, it's the best place to go if you are looking for arcane study. They do wizardry and things of that nature there. But in addition, they also have courses on a wide variety of topics, including the nature of the divines, a little bit of study into the planes of reality. They cooperate with the menagerie for that purpose. But the main thing that they do is they are far more open to the general populace for the purposes of education. They maintain a very, very large library, which is run and funded by the university and the funding that is able to be produced from it. And any individual from the city of Varpak, so long as they are either a citizen of Varpak or have at the very least shown themselves to be residents of the city, can access the Alabaster Lyceum's library for a single gold piece for a day's worth of attendance within the library. That gold piece pays for not only their visit to the library and any potential damages that may be incurred by their visit, maintenance of the books and etc., but it also pays for having an attendant follow said individual or group of individuals around in order to ask questions and also keep an eye on things.
Oh. Actually sounds like an area of the university's region that I would like to visit at some point. For the study of magics and so on. As I have a particular interest in law. O-R-E rather than L-A-W, of course.
Yes.
It being my College of Barding and, all of that stuff.
I imagine I'd also be interested in that.
Yeah.
For similar reasons, Song of Creation and all.
Yes, generally speaking, you guys have access to the university district already. The main thing that restricts people from being able to get in there is just the fact that to get in, you have to go through that checking in process, and if you look like you're up to no good, they can just turn you away. But generally speaking, if you don't look like you've just come from the docks, they'll let you in. And
we're through the gate anyway at the moment. Okay. Does anybody fancy visiting any particular areas?
No, I think maybe we go to that library.
Yeah. Alabaster Lyceum thingy place.
All right.
So,
what does everyone else want to do?
It is a good question. I asked that a minute ago. Met with stunned silence.
Well, silence can be stunning. Not as cunning as words, though. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot to do here. I'm quite keen in seeing if there's anything I can do to set up for the gig. See what kind. I want to essentially keep an eye. I'm going to follow the rest of the group, but I'd like to keep an eye out for conversations that are going on, listening on what kind of things seem to be liked by the upper class around here, and make sure that we're well equipped for the time we're going into.
We don't as yet have your flyers, do we?
No, they're going to take a little while. Unless Ez makes them with his Song of Creation.
It will only last for, I think, 3 hours if I do that.
Yeah.
And you need them to last longer than that.
Yeah.
If memory serves, Kiki was able to effectively convince the printing company that she went with in order to effectively expedite her process in order to get the flyers printed out basically by the next morning.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So they'll be ready in time then.
They'd be ready in time for the gig / scam.
Awesome.
Coatrack and Motch, is there anything in particular you two want to do?
Sorry, has the day passed yet since yesterday?
No, we're same day.
Okay, so yesterday's still today? Got it.
Yep.
Then
you You would be in the early afternoon, I would say, at this point.
Okay, so I just antagonized that guy a few hours ago.
Yeah.
Effectively, yes.
Got it. I mean, I could go committing unrelated crimes, I guess.
You could.
With the right related crimes.
With the right skill checks, or potentially some bit of schmoozing with the local populace, you could very well find yourself being treated to a nice meal, or perhaps a nice bit of jewelry.
Before I walk away, I'm gonna request someone hands me a bardic inspiration.
Yeah, take one.
Excellent. He wanders off.
Piper whips out a set of pan flutes and plays a little ditty in order to give Coatrack a spring in his step.
Thank you. I will remember this. Now, because that only lasts for 10 minutes, I'm only going to walk for like 5 minutes before I randomly start playing my triangle in the middle of the street.
All right.
Does that mean we can still see him do this?
I mean, I walked for like 5 minutes. Probably not, to be honest.
It depends on the direction. If he goes around a few corners, then not, but you'll probably be able to hear him depending on how vigorously he plays that triangle.
Shall we go investigate when we hear him play to see what he's up to?
We should probably make sure there's not too many singular capital letters occurring.
Singular capital letter. I don't get that one.
Is that capital letter close to M, but not quite?
Oh, okay. I understand now. All right. Well, he begins his performance by one very solid, loud tap on the triangle to get everyone's attention. And after we wait, he dramatically waits for a moment of make sure everyone notices, and then just goes nuts with an absolute banger on his triangle.
All right. Go ahead and roll me a performance check as I picture a half-elven man. Well, give me a moment. I shall find you a GIF that describes precisely what I'm picturing. Ah, perfect.
Okay.
So substitute the instrument for a triangle, and this is basically what I'm imagining Essig to be doing.
Yeah.
So you begin a roaring triangle solo, thoroughly attracting the attention of just about everybody in the area. You hear vague whispers of people wondering what on earth he's doing, followed by other vague whispers of people saying that they don't know, but they like it. And generally speaking, you have not a cheering audience watching you, but certainly an enraptured one.
The what are they doing, and why are they doing it?
Yes, a solid 50. There's a solid 50-50 of people watching for the purposes of finding out what's happened or what's about to happen next, and people just watching because they don't have anything better to do.
Well, as this is assuming I didn't have advantage, this is a 27 result, so this is a performance that most people could not in their entire lifetimes pull off.
Indeed, especially with a triangle. That's the special part about this, bear in mind.
Yes,
that's part of that very high result is part of the amount of audience attention you're getting is purely because of the fact that you are just absolutely fucking slaying it on a triangle.
Yes.
So, How long does this performance of yours last, and what do you do afterwards?
Your traditional, so let's say 3.5-ish minute song, and then he bows with his hat out at the end.
Ah, fair enough. So basically, an impromptu busking session occurs.
Yes.
Okay. Whilst that is happening, the rest of the party, I would say you are able to hear Essig a few, maybe a street over, absolutely going ham on a triangle, and besides that, what do you do?
I mean, I'm going to contemplate how much his performance could be improved by the addition of a cowbell.
Perhaps some slam poetry. I don't know. I kind of fancy finding my way towards this Alabaster Lyceum and perhaps a coffee shop within it. Meeting some people, having a bit of a chat, and generally finding out about things arcane. Perhaps working towards picking up a few extra, not specifically bardic, but more wizardy type skills. Maybe even look into some of the other sort of, on a scholarly level, some of the other sort of forms of magic and magicking. Sorcery, warlocks, wizards. There's all these other types of things other than bards, and they all have their own particular kind of lore and interests.
Yeah, are there any like artificeries and things around here as well? Because that'd be cool. We could pick up some things like it'd be really nice for us if we could get maybe a what are they called? The alchemy jugs, alchemical decanters or something, where you name a liquid like wine.
It would be particularly amazing if something could just sort of fall off the shelf and into a pocket, maybe into a crease at the bottom of a trouser that might sort of allow it to be walked out of a shop.
A bag of holding so we can bring along a bigger tent, maybe?
A bag of holding would be nice. I was looking at that bag of holding last session thinking, how do we get our hands on that bad boy?
Well, Piper, why don't you go ahead and give me a perception check? See what you can see.
Sure. Give me a moment. I was just running up the stairs. As one does while making perception checks. Here we are. Have a 13.
With a 13, you take a brief look around you for somewhere that might fit the description of a magic items shop of some kind, and don't seem to spot anything in particular. Thinking back, you also don't remember seeing anything along those lines in this general area. Yet, you have been able to spot various individuals wandering around with various minor enchanted equipment. Wands, things that you strongly suspect are bags of holding, things of that nature. You have an idea that there's probably some kind of source, but perhaps not in the conventional walk into a shop sense.
Oh, darn it. Essig messed up. He should have been here trying to fill for some bags.
What would be the right role to consider whether or not maybe there are some final year students who might have some projects involving breaking bags of holding that we might be able to get as a discount?
The role for that, I would say, would probably be somewhere along the lines of walking around and asking. Alternatively, I suppose you could just roll an investigation if you wanted to.
I mean, does that sound like something that might actually be a thing? Like, or am I really just pulling it out of my arse?
Cardgore doesn't really have enough of an idea as to how the education system works here to be able to get a solid idea. He imagines that there's probably some aspect about that somewhere. I mean, it would make sense. Artificers and the creation and people who specialize in the creation of magical artifacts are a thing, and they have to figure out the nature of their trade somewhere. It would make sense one of those places would be here.
All right. I suppose I'm gonna stop one of the people going past who seems to have a magical item.
Okay. The first person to wander past that fits that description is a bronze scaled dragonborn fellow who is wearing a kind of a teal blue robe of sorts. Not the kind of thing that you've come to expect from the uniforms around here. He appears to be a relatively well equipped looking fellow with a wand on a belt and a bag by his side. He looks at you and gives you a quick once over. And what is it exactly that you say to him?
So you're saying they're not normally wearing teal here? That's unusual. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, this man's standing out in the sense that he doesn't appear to be wearing any of the university uniforms. Either he's somebody who just lives in this region of the city because he can afford to, or perhaps he's one of the faculty staff.
I will compliment the fine teal robe that he's wearing and ask him what I'm a visitor here. Could you tell me what does teal signify?
He looks at you for a moment and blinks as if you've just asked him a question he wasn't expecting, and says, "Thank you. This is... What does it signify? I'd like the colour."
That's and that item there, is that something you made yourself?
He lifts his arms to try and get an idea as to what you're referring to. Are you pointing to the wand or the bag?
The bag.
He takes a look at it for a moment and says, "Oh no, I don't know. I got this from one of the He looks a little confused for a moment and says, "I don't remember the name of the place. It was a place over in Meadowburn. Just a shop that sells things, I guess."
Oh,
Sorry.
Is anything like that made round here?
Yeah. I think. You don't look like a student.
No, as I say, we're visiting here.
Right. Well, students
We're
are
considering
able to...
joining, though.
Oh, hello. Are you two together?
We're considering joining, so if it's something that's students only, then we don't mind that either. If it's after we've joined up that we get access to it, that's no problem.
Yes. As far as I know, students are able to gain access to workshops where artisans are busy crafting the essentials of arcane equipment, things of that nature. I believe this wand here was from such a workshop, though this one was gifted to me by my niece.
Oh, so your niece is a student here?
Yes. She's part of the Alabaster Lyceum. She is studying. She's studying the dragons over on Akavir.
Oh, really? Guess we should pay a visit there and see if we can learn more.
Potentially, you could. Do you have a interest in the dragons too, or were you looking to try and find out something else?
I mean, I've always thought dragons were fascinating, but I'm quite interested in people who can make magical items.
Ah, I see. Well, if you're looking to be a student, you'd either have to show some academic acumen, or maybe if you know anybody with a lot of money, or even if you yourself have a lot of money to be able to pay for a course, would certainly help. Tell me, what is it that you are doing in this area? Sorry, from your getup, you don't look the part.
We're looking to undertake a project, possibly with one of the professors here.
Oh, who might you be referring to?
I cast minor illusion so that behind them walks an inverse of a minotaur, in that it has the legs of a human, the arms of a human, and the head of a horse, just nonchalantly walking past them, behind them. Doesn't interact or anything, just wanders past whilst they're talking to him.
I'm going to indicate to the Minotaur, and I'll go, "Oh, that's the fellow."
Not a minotaur, it's an inverse centaur.
An inverse centaur. Well,
Yes.
You did say minotaur the first
Did
time.
I said minotaur. I was incorrect in that. I meant a centaur that is the inverse of a normal centaur, in that it has the basically BoJack Horseman. BoJack Horseman wanders behind them.
Okay, well, you see the man turns around and looks at this individual, this illusion walking along, and gives a look of mild amusement and says, "Ha, looks like somebody's polymorph has gone a bit wrong. You say you know that fellow?"
Oh, a guy called Bill. He's always getting up to this sort of mischief. Wonder he's made it past the first year.
I don't think I've met the fellow. Well, to be fair, I doubt I'd recognize him if that is indeed a botched polymorph.
It doesn't look like he's in the mood for it at the moment, anyway.
Yes. So,
Yeah,
well,
he
it's
does
good to
seem
see
have a
that
long face.
he looks at you, Cardgar, for a moment, and then points and laughs. That was a good one! I haven't heard that one since I was in Melbourne. And again, don't see many horses around here. Funny that. Anyway, I do have a place to be going to. I'd appreciate company if you happen to be headed towards the Lyceum.
I cast minor illusion again, and standing next to him is a halfling. When I say halfling, I mean half man, half ling the fish.
He spots you casting the minor illusion this time and looks down at the individual and then turns around and sees that the horse is missing. The horseman is missing.
Mm-hmm.
And then says,
It is now a pair of legs and a fish.
"Oh, that's bit of a trickster, I see.
Sorry.
Creative.
Little bit of halfling humour for you there. My apologies."
He looks at you with a kind of look of visible confusion. You don't need to you don't need to roll an insight check to see that he doesn't understand the joke.
Good.
Well, in either case, I have to be going. If you happen to be over at the Lyceum in the next hour or two, you'll probably find me. Until then, bye. And as he's walking off, and he stops for a moment and says, "Oh, Vividi, by the way."
Viridi, pleased to meet you.
"It's a pleasure." And he turns around again and continues wandering. You can tell that he's not moving directly towards the Lyceum. You suspect that he may be on some other small jaunts of sorts.
I'll turn to Trig's character. Was it Bobby, wasn't it?
Yes, Bobby.
Say, that's that place we wanted to go to anyway, right?
The Alabaster Lyceum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think while we're there, we'll see if maybe we can pick up a bag of holding on the cheap.
That would be great. I've got to say, mate, I'm not interested in studying dragons. They scared the Jesus out of me. They're huge. Have you seen how big a dragon is? I mean, I don't mind studying the creation gods and stuff like that. I'll sing about them all day, but I'm not going to go and meet a dragon. Terrifying.
Well, that's fair. I didn't think it was wise to badmouth dragons in front of that fellow. I mean, he looked to be a bit dragony himself.
He was a bit dragony, wasn't he? Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hear some dragons are okay, but I don't think I don't think it would be up to maybe later. Maybe as if we get a bit better. But
roll me an Arcana check.
An Arcana check.
Me or Trig?
Either of you.
Do you guys think any of them are actually dragons?
I don't
Just
think
in
magic
disguise.
actually exists, Ginger.
Yeah, well, regarding the nature of dragons, Cardgar searches the apparently empty filing cabinet in his head and realizes that he actually knows nothing about dragons whatsoever. In fact, given the name, he suspects that they might have something to do with pack animals. They drag things on.
Okay, based on my knowledge or lack thereof of dragons, I am going to use a Song of Creation to make a small statue of a dragon, small enough that you can hold it in your hand.
Okay, sure. I would say you describe to me what this looks like, and whilst you come up with that, I'll explain to Trig what Bobby knows about dragons. You know that they are big, they are vaguely scaly, probably similar to the fellow that you were just talking to, and are, generally speaking, have a bit of a bad reputation. However, as you said, you do know that there are some which are nice. Beyond that, you're not really sure. Also, last you checked, they were extinct.
I wouldn't worry, Cardigan. I don't think they exist anymore anyway. But I know they're very, very big. I mean, like really big.
Do you think that's why they went extinct? Because they couldn't get enough food?
Maybe that could be it. Actually,
So the statuette I create is, think of a cross between a camel and a flamingo, and I comment they probably had trouble getting the food into their beak.
Hang on. I'm thinking. You ever played Kenshi?
Oh, I haven't.
Okay, I'm sure somebody here has. In Kenshi, there's a creature known as a beak thing, and I'm picturing just a pink beak thing. Give me a moment.
Well, if anyone's got access to an image AI, do you want to try creating a cross between a camel and a flamingo?
There we go.
Well, I've just done that in Copilot, and it's dull, awful, and dull. But Copilot's a terrible AI thing.
Oh God! Why does it look like? Why does it say undyed scarf?
I don't know. There's also this.
Oh yeah, that let's go with that, with the general body shape, but with flamingo wings and pink feathers all over it.
Oh, that's hideous.
Yeah,
and the curved beak. The beak has to be curved like a flamingo's.
But yes, these things are called beak things, and they're from Kenshi. And I've just described to you the sum total knowledge that I have of what a beak thing is and does.
They are quite horrific. They are.
Yeah, all I know about them is that they're ugly as fuck, and they're called beak things. Apparently, they are also somewhat unpleasant.
The reason that says undyed scarf is because that comes from a mod page, apparently, that adds scarves to them.
Huh.
And that is demonstrating what they look like with the undyed scarf.
Oh yeah, you can see it's got a trendy scarf on.
I thought that was just part of them.
Just bandaged up where its neck was broken.
Yeah.
They're also
Yeah.
from that same mod page.
Ah,
Oh, look how happy they look.
You know, I looked into.
They look quite happy in that. Yeah.
Kenshi
The
does
fact
look
that
like
they're
a fun
bearing-
game.
Yeah, the fact that they're baring their teeth means that they're smiling at you.
They have
That's
beaks.
how animals
Beaks
work.
have teeth.
They seem
So,
like they
yes.
would be weak to a large thrown circular spore.
I mean, what's that
Ah.
classic song? Always smile when there's a crocodile.
I mean, there isn't much in the way of reference material, but if I had to guess from the scarf, assuming that's a human-sized scarf, these things look like that they're at least 12 feet tall.
Pretty hideous.
So yes, imagine that, but with pink feathers and some small wings on the back, and that's the creature that Ez just whipped up a small statue of, claiming it to be a dragon.
I'm going to look at that and go, are you sure?
Well,
That's a
it's
dragon.
got the wings. It's got the beak. Oh my god, Motch, well done.
What was
Christ.
Was that Dali?
No, it's Mid-Journey.
Okay, that's not
I
bad.
think
You know
the
what?
top right
I
one there is the
appreciate it
best.
because it really makes me think of Salvador Dali's art.
So, where did they put the gold then? I mean, they don't look like they're very good at picking it up.
Oh, well, that goes in the hump, obviously.
Ah, that does make sense.
They are pack animals, after all.
I kind of forgot. Did I actually make money off of my performance earlier?
We forgot to check.
Yes, we were dealing with the rest of the party whilst your performance was ongoing.
Okay,
But
okay. I was just making sure I didn't forget to write stuff down.
speaking of, I would say go ahead and roll yourself 66 to determine the number of gold and silver pieces given to you.
66. 16.
Oh, there you go. You can add 16 silver and 16 gold.
Cool.
Damn.
That was some solo.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you perform a unexpected and unusual performance in the presence of people who have lots of money and expendable income.
Nice.
You're currently in what would be politely described as the affluent part of town.
Fair play.
They must really like the sound of triangles.
Mm.
Well, this particular triangle, apparently.
It's very different from square instruments. In fact, that's a good point. Have you ever tried expanding out your instruments and playing a square?
The problem with that is a square with a horn will make you wish you weren't born every time he plays.
Ah, there goes Az again. Making
Can it
references
take you
to
back
things I
to the
don't
caveman
understand.
days?
Indeed. Motch got it.
Got it as what again?
Apparently, something about cavemen.
Booga booga.
Indeed. Oh, I've just remembered I have Maltesers.
Oh, lovely.
So, I almost said the elephant then. The fellow that was talking with you a moment ago, this Viridi individual, has made his way off and away from your party. I imagine by this point, Essig has also spotted where you were and returned to you with a noteworthy jingle in his hat.
I hold out the statuette and said, "Behold, a dragon."
Coatrack, you look at the statue.
Okay.
What you see is odd. Roll me an Arcana check to see if you recognize whether or not this is a dragon.
By the way, it looks like most closely
21.
to the second image that Motch posted.
Tell me everything about it.
This is most certainly not a dragon. And
What is it?
It could potentially be the result of a fever dream.
Tell me more about this fever dream. By the power of 21.
I mean,
I will tell you what you know about dragons. You know that dragons are a creature that once existed on this continent, but no longer do. The closest equivalent being wyverns, which are similar in body shape and overall structure, but severely lacking in intelligence, being closer to that of a horse or some other domesticated creature. Beyond that, you don't really know much more about dragons, aside from the fact that they're big lizards that usually kill people if they find them.
look, there's several types of dragons. Can't you accept this might be one you just didn't get to learn about?
No.
As for fever dreams go, I mean, Cardgall has been imbibing certain desert, what was it called? Desert drinks? Okay, what's it called?
Vapors of the
Night?
desert.
That's it, vapors of the desert.
Fucking boozy bugger.
It's
Hey,
not
he's a
just boozy.
he's a
That's
dwarf
like
with a
verging
brewing
on.
background.
And this is Cardgar starting to develop his addiction to various toxins that are possibly partially hallucinogenic. Well, very hallucinogenic.
Mm.
I
By
mean,
the way, did
Cardgar's
I
going to
describe to
be
your party in the previous session what the vapors of the desert actually is?
you ish, yes.
Cardgar's going to be the member of the team that ends up spending most of his time in rehab.
I mean, there's always one member of a band that, you know, eventually the rest of the band have to have a conversation with.
So, at this point, I would say the party has been kind of just standing in the street, just chatting amongst each other, waiting for Coatrack to get back, and generally speaking, not doing a whole lot. You can continue to stand here if you want, or you can pick a destination and make your way there.
Well, want of repeating myself too much, how about we try something in the way of the Alabaster Lyceum, perhaps a coffee shop or something that they have there, where we can explore the area and the people within it a little more.
And if no one objects, that's what the party does.
Fantastic.
So, you are able to make your way over to the Alabaster Lyceum with relative ease, and indeed, once arriving, you are able to find that there appears to be some various facilities that appear to be not just for the faculty or for the students. Upon arriving, you see that the Alabaster Lyceum's grounds appear to consist of largely three major structures. By far, the largest of the three is a large rectangular-looking structure with a big, ostentatious doorway that you see various students wandering in and out of, but you get the impression that that's probably not what you're after. To the left of that, however, you see a somewhat smaller structure which has a very roundel style with a large central dome that appears to be made of largely glassware. In a large, almost fresco-like structure making its way over the top of the entranceway, you see a stylized depiction of an open book. It's pretty fucking obvious what that is. The final of the structures appears to be, if you had to guess from the large number of windows, probably dorms.
Okay. So, big ostentatious building, a library or bookstore of some sort. Perhaps both. and the dormitory for the university.
In terms of foot traffic, you see the vast majority of the students whose uniform appears to be that of a fairly typical wizarding looking outfit. It's black flowing robes and a few little bits and pieces of additional detail, collars and the like. But generally speaking, all of the people wearing that kind of equipment and outfit are largely wandering between what you presume to be the dorms and the very large building. There are a few such individuals making their way into the big book place, but also alongside that, you see a variety of more interestingly dressed individuals, one of which you see is Viridi making his way into the building at this moment.
Really, the guy I was harassing with my mutant illusions.
Yes, the Dragonborn fellow that you, Piper, and Cardgar spoke to shortly. You see he makes his way into the building and disappears out of sight.
This is the big building with the ostentatious doors to it. Or the
yes, the one with the big book.
The one with the big book. Okay. That looks like the library. I think that's where we should check it out.
I think I agree.
Seeing as we're here, I just a few things I'd like to look into a little bit. The differences between wizards and warlocks and stuff. I hear all these sorts of tales, but source material.
Since you've arrived on the grounds of the Alabaster Lyceum, there is one interesting thing to note. First of all, the architecture here appears to be largely divested away from the typical dwarven style of building you've seen so far. Still a predominantly stone-based construction style, but it almost seems, well, to use a real-life analogy, Greek in design, with large columns and things of that nature. The other noteworthy thing is that the building itself, with the exception of the wooden and other non-stone bits, are almost blindingly white. Like,
I mean, it makes sense.
The kind of white that you'd expect to see in an American dental dental advert.
So, alabaster then.
Indeed.
I was about to say, it looks like they don't call it the Alabaster place for nothing.
They were not being ironic. No.
If we turned up and it was black, now that would be a little more nuanced.
You get the impression that they probably put a fair decent amount of money into maintaining this look.
I bet.
So,
I mean, we're on the coast, right? Just keeping all the seagull crap off it. It's got to spend. I bet they take. Who sits here washing this down every day?
I bet that's where they learn that prestidigitation stuff.
Oh, right.
You will note as you bring this up, there is a distinct lack of birds. None whatsoever. As I let you ruminate that, I'll be back in just a moment.
I bet they mock them all to death.
It does work quite nicely, that doesn't it? Touch of the old vicious mockery. Birds have no sense of humour. They can dish it out, but they just can't take it.
They are a pretty tough crowd.
Indeed. Well, I would like to go in here and have a look at various different sorts of magic and stuff, which of course I'm saying out loud again, even though Ginger isn't here.
Hello again.
Do you reckon they Skype in here much? Do you reckon people slip in here, pretend they're studying, and actually talk about, what's going on in the world, latest trends and stuff?
I mean, maybe. I don't know if wizards are into that type of stuff.
I don't know. They said it's not just wizards; it's rich people as well. Think about it. You're a wealthy family. You've sent your son or your daughter off in order to go and make it big in the world as a wizard or the like, and they're maybe not too into it. They don't really value it because it's been forced on them. They haven't chosen it.
Fair.
So, sorry to interrupt, but this conversation, as it's happening, I presume you are making your way over to the library.
Yeah.
As you head in, you see that shortly after making your way through the main entrance, it seems as though the passageway splits into two directions. One of which you can see on the right, there is a large, almost cafeteria-looking area. You can see that there are people sat down with books and drinks and maybe a little bit of food here and there, and just basically enjoying the space. And to the left, you see the library proper. It's quite impressive. It almost seems as though it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, though you suspect that may be just some form of illusion of perspective.
Or maybe it's a library of holding.
Or perhaps it's a library of holding. You never know.
That sounds risky. Imagine if someone walks into it with a bag of holding on their belt.
That would certainly be bad.
Not that Codgar would know about that, I'm sure.
Not considering his knowledge of dragons.
Now, hang on. Codgar looks at you and he frowns and says, I'm going to bet you here that look, I know more about dragons than you. I'm going to find an expert here and show him this statue, and he's going to confirm that you're talking shit.
Oh, by all means, game on.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm
you
willing
want to
to
put money
bet.
on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say the same thing. Money, right now. How much you got?
5 gold.
5 gold, done. My 5 gold says that
you're
is not a dragon.
Into your pint tonight.
Yeah, crying with laughter. Huge tears of laughter at the fact that you're buying my drinks all night. 5 gold, done.
If I'm buying the drinks all night, you know what you're getting.
I'm not drinking that shit again.
Weakling. Halfling.
Literally, did you not listen to what the guy said earlier? Lysander said if I drink that again, he could kill me. I tend to agree.
I'll give you a bit of inspiration. I'm sure you'll be fine. I
don't fancy summoning some creature from the dark realms to take over my body. Thank you very much.
Creature from the dark realms. That just sounds like the day after to me.
Well, maybe.
So, as you're having this conversation, I presume you're walking in towards the library section of the library.
We are, yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as I find anyone looking official, I'll loudly proclaim to him, look.
You want official. You want the person with the biggest, pointiest hat.
As you're walking in, I'd like each of you to just roll me a straight D20.
A straight D20?
Yep. Just /R1 D20.
11.
9.
Okay.
20.
Perfect. As the pair of you are having this argument, Piper, you are walking ahead of the rest of the pack, uninterested in the petty squabbles of your two companions. And as such, you're the first person to walk face first into what appears to be an invisible barrier of some sort. You bounce back off of it with nothing in the way of serious pain, but a serious shock, as you are literally, if you didn't know any better, you just walked into a glass door.
I'm gonna give it a knock.
It warbles as you quote unquote knock on it. It feels as though it's more of an energy barrier of some kind.
Guys, someone doesn't seem to like us.
Taking a quick look around, you see that there is a small slot in the wall that You see another student-looking fellow looks at your party with a almost a sneer, almost a kind of look of idiots. Simply walks past you and pushes a gold coin into said slot and simply walks through the barrier unhindered.
What, a gold coin? One
Mhm.
gold entrance.
That'd be worth it, yeah.
The Dragonborn guy said something about this, didn't he?
Hang on, how much was this bet? Is this worth it?
One gold to
Oh.
get entrance into the library of arcane knowledge. Probably worth it.
Yeah.
Is that each? I'm gonna pop a gold in and see if it'll let me through.
You pop the gold in, and you feel a twinge in the back of your head. You are able to recognize that some kind of magical effect was just placed on you.
Oh, that's interesting. Here, you guys try it, and I'm gonna walk through.
You walk through unhindered.
I will pay my gold also.
Much like with Piper, you feel a small magical twinge in the back of your head as you deposit the gold. But as you make your way through the open doorway, you are again able to pass through unhindered.
You know, it does strike me. You know those ancient kingdoms you sometimes find in stories of adventuring and the like.
Yes.
Do you reckon they've got places like this? And how do you reckon you get into them if the currency doesn't exist anymore?
I mean, that's a good question. No, maybe just any round gold object of coin size will work. Hey, card guy,
Well,
try dropping in there a silver, or if you got any, like a copper or a bronze or something coin,
or maybe a gold coin from a different nation, something that's not actually standard currency.
Hang on, let me just check if I've got any more. I've got one more creation before I need to do a rest, so could do that. What would you like me to try on this?
Whatever you like, just something that's not a gold coin but looks like a gold coin.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to create a brass button, a heavy one.
A large brass button with the approximate dimensions of a gold coin, I presume.
Yes.
Go for dimensions and weight, just in case it's like vending machines.
Instead of having the normal face of the gold coin for this area, I'm going to put Bill's face on it. Bobby.
Right.
Yeah, awesome.
I was about to say, who's Bill?
Yeah, no.
Sorry, I'm getting old. Can't remember names.
So, you pop the item into the slot, and well, you didn't see anything else happen to the other people when they did. But as you attempt to step through the portal, you feel the repulsion take place.
All right. I shrug and let them know it didn't work, and I will put a gold in.
As you do, you feel a small twinge in the back of your head, and you are suddenly allowed access to the structure. And I presume that both Essig and sorry, Motch, what's your character called again? Reeve. I presume Essig and Reeve both make their way in as well by dropping a gold coin in.
If I have to.
Well, you could go into the canteen and wait for us.
Could do.
Is there any particular reason I need to go in here?
If you want to follow the party, then yes. If you're not particularly interested in following the party, you could just not.
You could steal some expensive books.
There's a magical barrier around the entire inside of it.
I wouldn't recommend
okay.
it. You book them out, right? You take them out on a new library card that you've just set up.
Oh right, got
and
you.
Then you never
bring them back. Yeah, no, I've got a couple of books like that. I used to know someone a long time ago. He was a
I'll be
right
back in 1 minute.
reprobate. Wasn't me. Definitely wasn't me. Do such a thing. Terrible. DM's buggered off again.
I know. So unprofessional. We pay him for this. If the chat doesn't know, our viewer doesn't know this.
That's right. Yeah, by all means, drop us a donation or Patreon.
We
Not that I have one.
We definitely pay him in both gold coins and brass buttons.
Yep. I have to get a Patreon just for a lark, or some other shit like that.
I've never really understood the allure of the Patreon.
You've never understood the allure of having a facility that allows other people to give you money for,
that bit I get. The other
nonsense.
side of it, I don't.
What other side of it?
You mean giving money on Patreon?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
As you step into the open doorway, as each of you make your way in after having deposited your gold piece, the that twinge that you felt in the back of your head suddenly begins to almost vibrate, if you will, as you hear a voice that says, "If you have any questions regarding this facility, you need to merely think them, and you will be answered."
Oh, mighty voice in my head! Please tell Cardigar that his image of a dragon, or his model of a dragon, isn't a dragon, and that he's a fucking idiot.
After a short moment, you get another message in your head, Bobby, that says, "User Cardgar not recognized."
Oh.
Did he say all of this aloud or in his head?
Well, that's a question for Trick to answer.
Mm-hmm.
I will go, okay. I will say out loud, Cardgar, ask the voice in your head whether that's a dragon or not. He'll tell you.
I say in a loud voice, because I don't know how close the voice in my head is in terms of being able to hear me. Where can I find an expert on dragons?
A short moment passes, and suddenly you are imbued with the knowledge of where the publicly accessible documentation regarding all things draconic can be found within the Lyceum's library.
All right. I just kind of like blink a couple of times and say, I know where the dragon experts are.
It's really convenient, isn't it? If they're able to put knowledge in like that, why do they need the books?
More than that, why do they need lecturers?
Maybe it's just like a statistical model and actually isn't thinking for itself and can't really portray the true nuance of the information. It just essentially just puts, what it thinks together is a good answer. Maybe it's just really, really power intensive as well. Requires like lots and lots of initiates to constantly power it.
Are you saying they sacrifice 1,000 psychers every day?
Don't be ridiculous. That's what orphans are for. So anyway, I presume the party make their way along, guided by the literal...
I've walked off confidently and pointed this way. Yeah. Dragon expert ahead.
We will follow. I'm also going to ask the voice in my head, quietly, in my head, so to speak, where I might find sort of I'm interested in bardic magic, but I'm also interested in the differences between wizards and warlocks and all the other types of magic, clerics, etc. I've only ever experienced my own schools of thought, so to speak, and I want to know how other things are done.
A moment passes, and you are suddenly imbued with the knowledge of where to find a region of the library that contains information regarding the classification of different sources of magic and their esoteric natures.
I want to know how they make bags of holding.
A moment passes, and you are suddenly aware of a region within the library that gives you an idea as to how various magical artifacts are created and the processes involved in enchantment.
Enchantment?
Yeah, I'm gonna read up on enchantment.
Righto.
I'm going to ask the voice actually whether or not how we go about taking out books if we need to read them outside of the library.
The voice responds with words to the effect of, if you wish to take books off premises, you will have to be a registered member of the Alabaster Lyceum.
Can I look behind us and see if there's anybody else has entered since we've entered the library?
Yes. A few other people have made their way in. You're able to see that some people make their way in, but then seemingly veer off towards the more food courty looking area. But a few other folks have made their way into the same area you find yourself in currently.
Were they all dwarves? Or were any of them dwarves?
A few of them were, but there seems to be a noteworthy increase in the, shall we say, genetic diversity of the populace here.
Okay. How many were dwarves that have come in since we entered?
I would say a pair of dwarven males made their way into the area.
Okay.
It's worth pointing out that this overall library is quite large. If you had to guess, you would say that it would take you at least an hour just to walk up and down all of the various aisles.
Okay, I'm going to send you a quick PM.
Okie dokie. Whilst he types that up. Essig and Reeve, are the pair of you just following along with what the rest of the party are doing, or is there a specific topic that you'd like to try and look into?
Oh, I was thinking of waiting outside and finding someone to rob.
Ah, fair enough. Well, in that case, I suppose you wouldn't have made your way into the library, so feel free to not have spent that single gold coin.
Correct.
Do you make your way into the cafeteria, or are you just gonna hang around outside for a bit?
Wherever I see a really crowded area is where I'm going.
Right. Good to know. I presume you want me to answer this in DMs there, Tree?
I think it's only appropriate.
Fair enough. I won't be speaking for a moment whilst I type it up.
Okay. In the meanwhile, we'll be walking towards whoever may be a dragon expert. And
yeah, we've got to settle this bet.
I am going to give Cudguard some more ribbing about his dragon.
I expect it to be a young teenage boy with brown hair, who's very skinny, he's missing one leg, and answers to the name of Hiccup. I'll be disappointed if it's not.
Is this a How to Train Your Dragon?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I've still yet to see that. I hear it's a very good little film.
As far as DreamWorks 3D films go, it's up there. I'm not sure if it's your thing.
Fair. I know my niece likes
hero's journey story.
Yeah. The most recent dragon film I've seen is either Reign of Fire or which is a good movie. I was quite enjoyed that.
I enjoyed that. Yeah.
And of course Dragonheart.
Dragonheart. Yeah.
Which is
Dragonheart's a classic.
But they haven't really touched on this.
God, I remember how disappointed I was with the Eragon movie after I'd read the books.
My sister raved about that because she loved the books. But it's like, it actually wasn't very good.
So,
no, the movie was heinous.
We'll start off with what Khadgar is able to find as he goes on his little wandering spree.
Well, I'm assuming everyone's coming with me.
I was under the impression that you all went off in different directions to look for your own information.
Well, I want Drig to come along with me because I've got to prove him wrong.
Yeah. I will go along with Khadgar to find this dragon information and prove him wrong, so I can win the bet. Then I'm going to go off and have a quick research on different forms of magic, see if I can't gen up on associated lore of magic. And so
Okay.
I also have something I would want to do afterwards, but I'll wait to get to that.
It only takes you a few moments to be able to make your way to the right area, at which point you feel a sense of accomplishment being emitted from this magical presence in your head. An indication of congratulations, you found your way to where you requested.
I start looking around for a skinny Viking, but with only one leg.
Make me an investigation check.
Investigation is this one. My rolls are so consistent.
Yeah, I've noticed that. A 3 and then a 4. Well, as you are looking around, you don't see really much of anything that matches the description of Hiccup.
Do I see anything that matches the description of a dragon?
You see some books that have covers on them, which doesn't match the description of your understanding of a dragon, but well, you presume, given that you've been directed to the area on draconic studies, that whatever this thing is probably at least closely related.
It just looks like some sort of flying lizard.
Hmm.
I'm dismissive of any of the books that have pictures that don't look like dragons.
You find something that looks kind of close to what you're describing. You pick up a book that it appears to have a symbol on it of 3 circles of different sizes, just kind of arranged in a haphazard fashion within a larger circle. And you recognize this as being a symbol that you spotted whilst you were over in the menagerie. And as you open the book and begin flipping through the pages, you see a variety of creatures, which all appear to have a similar kind of general design to them. Scaled creatures with a kind of with a head that looks similar to the Dragonborn fellow that you were speaking to earlier. They all vary in colors and number of represented legs, whether or not they have wings and things of that nature. But generally speaking, you don't spot anything that is that has a beak. The one that I mentioned that came closest was a feathered entity, something which appears to indeed have feathers, but doesn't have a beak, and otherwise looks vaguely serpentine in appearance. And looking further into this, you are able to learn that this is a creature known as a Quetzalcoatlus.
Does it have 4 legs and a kind of snake-like neck?
It has no legs, and its entire body is snake-like. There appears to be vaguely vestigial style of arms, and the plumage, whilst it has feathers unlike the other creatures that you've been able to find so far, whilst there are pink feathers, there are also feathers of a variety of other colours. Greens, reds, even a few blue ones. Not quite the colours of the rainbow, but perhaps rainbow plus extra.
I grumble in disappointment at the lack of good materials in this library, and I go to see if I can find a librarian to see if I can actually find a book on dragons.
Yes. Can I have a look around, see if I can find someone who I might, mistake as an expert or someone who's knowledgeable on the subject of dragons?
Well, as you're looking around, you see a human-looking fellow, a student, as you recognize from the uniform. He sat down at a nearby bench with a book opened up that he's simply resting his head in the palm of his hand, reading away. Now, there's a small scraggly beard on him. You get the impression that perhaps he's in his mid to late teens.
Fair enough. I will saunter up next to him, sit down, and go, "Excuse me there, Squire. I wonder if you can help settle a bet with my colleague and I."
Yes. Can you help us find a book about one of these? And I hold out the statue.
Oh, no. That wasn't exactly the bet, though, was it? That wasn't the bet. The bet was that is an accurate representation of a dragon.
It is. It's a common dragon.
The man / boy has been stared into attention by this sudden approachment by you two, and was listening to what you were saying with a seeming lack of malice in his face. He doesn't seem to be particularly bothered that you suddenly interrupted him. Upon seeing the statue, you noticed that there was a look of curiosity that came across his face, but as Cardgar said that it was a common dragon, he almost did a spit take as he looks at you and says, "No, it's not.
Of course it is.
If it's common, then I've never seen one of those before."
Well, you show me a book with a common dragon, and then we'll settle this.
Sure. He flips through the pages of his book and opens up a page that appears to show a creature that has 2 legs, 2 wings, and a head on the end of an elongated neck with a long tail that, as opposed to tapering down to a point, tapers down vaguely until it reaches a large, almost pineapple-looking structure on the end of its tail. As he turns the book to you and says, "This is the most common form of dragon that you'll see on this continent."
Do I recognize this creature in any way, shape, or form? Like wyvern, maybe?
Well, Cardguard doesn't recognize it, but you are able to see from the description and writing on the page that this does appear to be a wyvern.
Well, if I read that, I say, no, that's not a dragon, that's a wyvern. No, it says it right here, wyvern.
The kid looks at you for a moment and says, "No, hang on. It's not a true dragon, but this is a dragon."
No. I'm not interested in fake dragons. I want a real dragon like the one I'm holding.
That's not a dragon.
Yes, it is.
It might be a...
What, are you a student here?
I am.
You clearly aren't doing that well in your studies if you can't recognize a dragon when I show you one.
Well, I'm not studying dragons. What is that? It's not a dragon.
It's a dragon.
I've never seen it before.
Wait, just because you've never seen it doesn't mean it's not a dragon.
I've been telling you, that's not a dragon. I don't know what that is. It's some sort of fever dream you've been having. But that is not a dragon. Listen to the man. He knows. I know. And
actually, I don't. I study dragons as a hobby, but I've never seen anything like that. It looks like something that a wizard might have cooked up. A chimera, maybe?
Dragons are magical. This is magical.
Are there... Okay, let me take a closer look at this.
I'll hold it out for him to look.
He he takes the statue out of your hands as he examines it closer and says, "Look, this looks to be like a chimera. That's a I don't know a whole lot about them, but generally they're like when someone with a lot of magic, be it a wizard or something else, they kind of blend creatures together and take aspects of each one. This one looks to be maybe a toucan of some kind. It's pink and
maybe a flaming camel.
Well, no, I don't think it's a. Wait, I suppose I was going to say it looks like a goose horse toucan, but a flamingo and a camel makes a lot of sense too, I suppose. Yeah, I guess that this is a camel flamingo chimera. I wouldn't say it's a dragon, not unless there's some dragon bits inside it that you can't see. Where'd you find this?
He made it.
This is what I was always told is a dragon. Long neck, angry eyes, wings, long legs. It's a dragon.
You see a look of dumbfoundedness come across the kid's face as he realizes that you did technically just describe a variety of dragon.
Yeah, you're kind of slow, aren't you? You don't see a dragon when it's before you.
Now, look, dragons, they have scales most of the time, at the very least. This doesn't have scales. Also, they have teeth, and that's a beak. Beaks don't come with teeth.
Can do.
No, they don't.
Don't parrots have teeth?
I don't really think you know what you're talking about then.
How long have you been in the library? Like total?
How long have we been? Like 20 minutes?
Yeah, you'd guess it'd be about 15 at most.
Yeah, we came in here. I asked the talking voice where can I find an expert on dragons? It took me straight to you.
Well, that's wrong because I'm not an expert on dragons. I'm a hobbyist. I'd like to think that I'm an expert, but that's about as good as you're going to get in here. This is for people who already know what they're looking for and are doing self-study.
Why would you need to study something if you already know what it is?
I just put my hand in my head in my hands and go, I'm sorry I brought you into this. You see what I have to work with.
I don't understand if this is some kind of joke. I'd appreciate it if you'd leave me alone, guys.
Right, do you know anyone else around a bit about dragons? I can convince this dickhead over here that monstrosity is not a dragon because he seems to insist that it is. He's bet me 5 gold coins that it is, and I'm not paying him 5 gold coins for that. And he's buying the drinks tonight because I've had to put up with this.
Make a persuasion check.
Make a persuasion check. 25, do you?
Yes, it would. You see the kid. He looks at you with a look of almost pitiable understanding as you get the impression that he understands the plight of having to deal with someone whose ignorance is this overwhelming and overbearing. And he says, "Give me a moment." He pulls out a wand and quickly whiffs it around in the air a few times before closing his eyes for a moment and says, "Okay, a friend of mine is coming over. She is a dragonborn. She probably won't appreciate being asked to pay a gold to get in. So, if in the next 10 minutes you make your way outside and just wait for her, she'll be in here. She'll be soon along."
What colour dragonborn is she?
Brass.
Press. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Right.
her name's Pradia, and well, she studies dragons, and I don't think you're going to get much better than that without forking out a lot of money to speak to a seasoned expert.
Seems fair.
Good.
Right,
We can finally put this to bed then.
Yes. Yes, we can.
And you'll finally have to accept that a dragon is a dragon.
I am willing to accept that a dragon is a dragon, and whatever the hell that thing is not a dragon.
We'll see.
We will indeed.
I'll tell you one thing. Oh, I don't want someone trying to tell me a wyvern is a dragon. That's a wyvern.
Wyvern's a type.
No, a wyvern is a dragon.
No, it's a wyvern.
He has a point.
Yeah, but it's also a dragon.
He doesn't have a point.
Still wyvern.
You look, you know.
Does it look
Okay.
anything like this? And I gestured.
Is a strawberry a fruit?
Oh yes.
Well, it's a drop, but yeah.
A strawberry is a strawberry, but a strawberry is also a fruit.
It's
A
berry.
wyvern is a wyvern, but I don't know. A strawberry is a strawberry, but it's also a fruit. A wyvern is a dragon, but it's also a wyvern.
Well, maybe it's just a different type of dragon then.
Maybe. It's nothing that I've ever seen or heard of. And if it was a kind of dragon, it would have a name. And you're just calling it a dragon, which isn't right. There is no dragon that's just dragon. It's always something dragon or a dragon something, or it has a special name like a wyvern.
I'll tell you what that is.
I
What
don't
the
know
fuck
its
is that?
magical term.
It's not magical, it's just a name.
No, I'm not.
Anyway.
I'm not a taxidermist or whatever they call him.
Well, Pradia will be here soon, so you if she doesn't arrive and see a dwarf standing outside, she's probably going to get annoyed and walk off. So you best get going.
Fine, let's go and meet Pradia. Do we have to pay to get back in again? After we've gone out?
Only if the hour's up.
Right. Okay.
Cool. We've only been here 15 minutes.
Yep.
We should be good.
So, as that is happening, Reeve, I presume that you've been hanging outside with Coatrack. Well, Essig.
I was thinking Reeve would have gone into the library because he just wants to learn more about music and the world outside of his town.
Ah, fair enough. In that case, Piper went off to study something else. Remind me again what it was, Kiki?
I went to look into the production of magical items and potentially how a bard would go about doing so.
Right. Well, given that that probably involves the production of musical instruments, presumably Reeve would be following along.
Yeah.
Unless Reeve wanted to stick around for the dragon debate.
Nobody wants.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So it's all right, Motch. Even I don't want to stick around for the dragon debate.
So as Reeve and Piper make their way off to a separate section of the library, it doesn't take them long to arrive in a region that is actually fairly large and expansive, especially compared to the dragon section that Cardgar and Robert ended up at. It appears as though that this region has a variety of subdivisions, seemingly describing minor magical items, magical artifacts of great power, and everything in between. And there are also sections dedicated to the actual study and creation of custom magical items as well. I would say one of you roll me a investigation check with advantage, as I presume that you would be helping each other.
How's your investigation, Motch?
Let me have a look.
I've got a +1, so I'm happy to give you advantage if you like.
My investigation, is that just the number on the left for the thing?
Yes, it is.
Mine is a 2.
Yeah, you do it.
That's twice as good as Piper's. So, it might be a good idea to use a bardic inspiration on this.
Absolutely. Bardic inspiration, and we're supporting each other, so we'll get advantage, right?
That's how that works. Go ahead and make the roll, Motch. Ooh, 21. Now roll an additional d6.
I'm gonna get the command wrong. I always get the command wrong. Hang on. If I scroll far enough up, it tells me.
/R, then space. A, well done. With a total investigation of 25. That's very good. You're able to make your way over to a special section on the creation of what are referred to as common use high value items. Describe to me exactly what it is that you're looking to find out, and I will give you all the information that you need for it.
I'm looking for things like bags of holding, endless decanters, and instruments of extra volume. Maybe bagpipes with like 4 times the range of hit audibility or something.
Well, for the first category, you are able to find a pretty useful resource. It doesn't take you long to discover a section that basically describes how certain magical items are classed as wondrous items, and these wondrous items are typically made on a fairly wide scale in not exactly batch production, but there's always a reserve being created in order to keep up with the steady demand of adventurers and wealthy nobles, and generally speaking, people who have the necessary money and need for such gear. And the most noteworthy thing that you see on this is that, generally speaking, it requires the ability to manipulate up to a certain level of magic. The creation of wondrous items and magical items in general requires an individual to be able to command magical forces of a certain power level in order to effectively warp reality and make that warping fix into place. So, whilst it's unusual for a bard to be able to go into the profession of magic item creation, it's not necessarily impossible or unheard of.
Now, we can't take books out of here, can we?
No, you can't. At least not at this moment.
But we can take heavily detailed notes.
That's right, you can.
Fantastic. I shall do so. And hopefully, with some detailed notes and the expertise of Khadgar, we might be able to learn to produce some things.
You remember you got that magic paper?
Yes, we do. I'm going to think the full document just in a smaller print so that it all fits on there onto the paper. And then later on, when we want to expand it again, I can think of we can get another piece of the paper and think of a section of it in larger prints.
Now, before you lock into that, I believe I mentioned that this is like single use, one and done.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Never mind.
Like, if you use this paper, it effectively consumes the magical potential and then it locks into whatever it is that you had it generate.
If I may say, boo.
Kiki, do some research on magic paper, see if there's ways to make it reusable.
Yeah, I'll look into that as well. But we'll see how time goes. I want to focus on the things I mentioned first.
Well, given that there are two of you, I would say that there are two topics that you can look up. The general basics on the creation of magic items is something that you can start off with as your first topic. And if there's any additional questions that you think of later, feel free to ask. But regarding a second topic, the creation of specifically reusable magical paper, that can be your second topic if you want.
I mean, I'd kind of like to look into the intricacies of these bags of holding we found. The idea of having more space is something that's quite fascinating to me. Bigger tents, bigger everything for us small people.
Well, I would say, assuming that Reeve is happy to give you inspiration, roll your own investigation check with inspiration and with advantage because obviously Reeve would be helping out as well.
Oh no.
That's not as good as the first one.
I mean, it's a 12.
But that makes it significantly better considering you got a 14, not a 12.
Yes, yes. Considering I got nearly as much on my 1d6 as I did on my d20 plus 1.
Yeah, as it turns out that the inspiration was quite important though. So you're able to not find anything on reusable magical paper. However, you are able to find a document on how it's produced. And I can go into details for that later. What you are able to find, though, is the general science and magical understanding behind the creation of what are referred to as pocket dimensions. Pocket dimensions are, generally speaking, like miniature versions of planes. Planes being the big sections of reality that entire civilizations can exist in. A pocket dimension is something that's much, much smaller and exists on a typically either personal or very small scale. Think an individual room. And
right.
This logic of pocket dimensions is the same logic that bags of holding operate under, with the bag simply acting as a portable gate that is perpetually in existence for the purposes of accessing this pocket dimension.
Ah. So could one theoretically produce a pocket dimension that's, say, for example, a stage dressing room that is accessible via a small tent or a pop-up doorway?
Yes, it absolutely would be possible to create something along those lines, at least according to what you're able to read here, but you get the impression that it seems as though it's the general expenditure of resources for creating these things, both magical and physical, it scales unfavorably as it gets bigger and bigger.
Are you suggesting a sort of a Paper's pint-sized palace type film?
Yeah. That is exactly what I'm thinking.
You could produce something the size of a studio apartment, but you would estimate that depending on whether or not you were able to source the physical materials yourself, it could run anywhere from several thousand to several tens of thousands of gold.
That's not as bad as I thought. Okay. Well, I'm going to make some notes the old-fashioned way, and I'm going to keep that in mind for several thousands to tens of thousands. What are we talking? If I want basically a single room with a I don't know, maybe a cold box, some cooking apparatus, a bed, and a place you can sit down and eat and have a catch up, maybe with a friend, like a box apartment type thing, box room apartment. What
you've
kind of?
just described? What you just described is a space of a certain size. The space of that certain size, that's relatively easy to generate, but making it permanent and giving it a way of accessing that does not require the repeated expenditure of magical potential, aka spell slots, that's where the price comes in. The interior furnishings, that's just something that you can put in there once the space itself has been made permanent. A failure to make the space permanent after furnishing it means that any furnishings that you put in it would be shunted back out once that pocket dimension ceases to be.
Right.
It's literally just you can make a space with very little issue. It's literally just whip a bit of magic up. Like there's a spell called Rope Trick that you can use to create something along those lines.
Right. Fantastic. Now,
making the space permanently accessible, that's where the expenditure comes in.
Okay, how much expenditure?
Well, let's say a 15 by 15 foot cubic room.
Yep, perfect.
That would be, say, a couple hundred gold for the actual components of the magical ingredients that would be required in creating the arcane structures, if you will, in order to generate this room. If you acquire the materials yourself, it eliminates the cost, but that requires going planes hopping and slaying creatures that already have potential within that area, or
we've certainly got no plans of that. It's not like that's something we've been thinking about.
Yes, if you were to pay someone else to source these things for you, that would be a couple thousand minimum. And then paying for the materials to generate what effectively amounts to a portable aperture. Literally a doorway that you can carry around with you in some form of collapsible format that can then be deployed so that you can access this dimensional pocket space wherever you are, regardless of what plane you yourself are on. That's another major expenditure of gold.
Okay. So like 5,000 maybe total?
Yeah, 5, 6, depending. It entirely depends on whether or not you're able to source the necessary materials yourself.
Okay, I'm going to make that a long-term goal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna when we go planes hopping, I'm going to make one of my main focuses searching for all of the required materials to do this planes hopping and not do this planes hopping, to acquire these the dressing room.
Righto. So, as Piper notes all of this down, Reeve, what exactly do you end up looking for?
I'm not exactly sure.
Should I come back to you?
Yeah, that might be for the best.
Righto. So, we'll go back to what Cardgar is up to outside. Cardgar and Bobby, as you make your way outside of the library, you just so happen to make your way outside just as a young, feminine-looking dragonborn with brass scales comes along. Less wearing a robe and more so wearing what appears to be a kind of dress of sorts. This woman makes her way directly in your direction and says, "Hello, are you the dwarf and halfling looking to find out about dragons?"
Yes, we
Are
would be.
you the dragon expert?
About as close as you can get. Yeah, why?
Well, we have a little bit of a bet here, and my friend here is trying to convince me that a dragon is not a dragon. I'm hoping you can steer things in the right direction.
Let me be clear. My friend here has created what he thinks is a dragon in miniature model form, and I have a small wager because I told him that is not a dragon, that is some sort of fever dream monstrosity, and in fact a dragon is similar to the pictures of dragons we've seen in the library. He doesn't believe.
Right. Let me see this thing.
I'll hold out the statuette and say, look, it's a dragon. It's got
Behold a dragon.
wings, long neck. It's got legs. It's a dragon.
And behold your lineage.
This is exactly as I was taught a dragon would look like.
She looks at it for a moment and then looks up at you and says, "Is this a joke?"
No, it's a dragon.
It's not a dragon.
It's definitely a dragon.
It's definitely not a dragon.
Have you seen every sort of dragon in the world?
Yep.
Is it possible you've just not seen this one yet?
Khadgar, she's a dragonborn. She's literally part dragon. Dude, whatever that is, it's not a dragon. Please believe me.
Well, then what on earth would be a dragon then?
Okay, what you just said there is not okay. All because I look like the way I am doesn't mean I know everything about the way I look.
Yeah, no, I think that was very
I mean, I get you,
unpleasing.
but I know
But that said-
I know a bit about
But that said, on
halflings.
this, that said, technically you're not wrong, but that's only because I'm an expert on dragons.
So I turn to the dragonborn and say, look, is it
That's
entirely
racist,
possible
but I'm
that
right.
throughout all your studies,
As
there
usual.
might be a dragon you've not come across? And I'd like to do a persuasion on this.
Okay, go ahead and roll your persuasion.
Oh, bloody hell, my rolls are terrible.
Oh my god.
Can I get advantage on this?
No, I would like to give her
Um,
a bardic inspiration if she needs it.
she doesn't need it.
No playing music in the library.
Technically, this is outside the library.
Yeah.
But she looks at you and says, technically, it's possible that something that matches this description exists somewhere, but it's not a dragon. It doesn't have any of the hallmarks of draconic features. This isn't a dragon.
Hold
And
out
she
my
puts a
hand and
hand
just
on
go,
your shoulder.
Hey up.
She puts a hand on your shoulder, Khadgar, and says, "I'm sorry, but whoever told you that this is a dragon is very incorrect and should probably get themselves checked out."
Gogo just looks sad. Like, what is a dragon then? What does a dragon look like if not this?
Just saw a lot of pictures of it, mate. Give me the money.
Oh,
Hey
that
up.
was a wyvern.
Wyvern's a
Oh, I
type of
want to know what a
dragon.
dragon looks like.
Okay,
Mm.
I can answer that if you're interested.
Yes, very
Okay,
interested.
she proceeds to go into a very long and lengthy piece of what you suspect is probably some kind of presentation that she's memorized from some time ago. That summarized basically says dragons have elongated snouts, usually have an elemental affinity, are scaled, and have natural affinity for magic. Those are the 4 main points that determines what is or isn't a dragon.
So there's
And
never been a
she
dragon
also
that
rec-
isn't scaled.
There has never been a dragon that isn't scaled.
What about
And
those
she also...
Quetzal things?
What was that?
I say, what about those Quetzal things? They weren't scaled.
They are scaled. It's just that their scales are hidden by the plumage. And she quickly whips up a minor illusion of a very similar looking illustration to what you saw in that book earlier and says, if you see here, there are scales located along the legs and feet. Well, they're not real legs, they're more like pseudo vestigial, but in either case, it's not complete feathery plumage. You can also see a bit here on the head area in certain spots. It's scales with feathers growing out between them in order to act as... Well, to be honest, we're not entirely sure. We think that the feathers themselves are actually imbued with some level of magic to enable flight. You'll notice that doesn't have any wings.
Oh. Right, no wings. Why not?
I don't know. It flies, though. Some creatures are able to fly via magical means. Some require some means of being able to do so with more conventional methods, like birds do.
Argus just sighs at that and says, "Well, thank you very much. You've been a lot of help." He sounds a bit defeated, and he looks at Bobby and is like, "All right,
Yep.
a bet's a bet." And he gives you your 5 gold.
Thank you. And I turn to her and go, I'm very sorry to have been an inconvenience. However, I did find that extremely fascinating. Can I try to memorize that minor illusion of the dragon that she created so that I might be able to replicate it at some point in the future?
Sure. I would say you can just, generally speaking, give it your best bet. And if at some point you need to create a minor illusion, you can determine how successful that is just by simply rolling at the time.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Just that minor illusion is of the Quetzalcoatlus, which is a feathered flying serpent of sorts.
Groovy.
One of the bits of information that she would have told you about the Quetzalcoatlus, by the way, is that it is a dragon that is native to the elemental plane of air. So you're unlikely to ever find one in this particular realm.
Huh. Okay, worth knowing.
Yes, with that said, now we get to the fun part. We've covered the nerd shit. Coatrack,
Rhyme.
what's Essig been getting up to whilst his companions have been wandering about a library finding out useless information about things they'll never make use of?
Ah, yes. Well, speaking of things we will make use of, money. So, I want to go into
Right.
crowds, and I'm going to practice pickpocketing.
Okay. There are a variety of locations you can go there for. For example, in the library, although the area where all of the main knowledge is kept is locked off to people who aren't willing to pay a gold piece, there is a nearby attached cafeteria of sorts where there are a variety of people whose noses are thoroughly wedged in what you presume to be books taken from the library mere meters away.
All right. I will take advantage of invisibility to assist in this.
Ah, are you doing this via a magical effect?
The spell invisibility.
Ah, I see. Okie dokie. So, as you are, as you make your way inside, oh, hang on just a moment. I just lost sound. That's no good. Let me just swap over my earphones to ones with fresh battery. And quick test.
Testing.
Excellent. I can hear you again. So, as you make your way into the library's cafeteria area, when do you turn invisible exactly?
Well, like somewhere out of sight completely, of course.
Okay. There is an on-site lavatory that you'd be able to make use of.
That would be a pretty obvious decision.
As you've been in Dwarven territory before, as part of your character's backstory, you would be able to recognize the presence of interior bathrooms, toilets, and things of that nature. As you make your way in, you make your way into a cubicle and cast invisibility on yourself. Now, do me a favor and post the spell in the chat so I can be reminded of the exact effects.
Indeed. Nope, that's not the button.
Up to an hour. Fun.
Yes.
So, something to note about the effect of invisibility. Items that you pick up whilst you are invisible immediately themselves turn invisible.
That's how I imagined it working.
Whilst this is exceedingly useful, if somebody happens to be looking at a given object as it suddenly vanishes, it will arouse suspicion.
Well, yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I wouldn't pick up something someone's actively looking at.
Yeah, well, as I say, I'm just letting you know so that you are aware.
Yes.
So, you turn invisible and you make your way back out. Thankfully, there are no doors that need to be dealt with and for opening and closing. However, once you make your way outside, there is before you a room of various peoples. It appears as though there's a variety of species to look at. There's a couple dragonborn off in the corner, seemingly minding their own business. There's a variety of humans dotted here and there, along with dwarves. There are a trio of elven women who are all sat around a particularly small circular table, which is odd considering that the rest of the tables in the area are rectangular. You suspect that they may have brought their own furnishings by some magical means. There is a variety of other people and various bits and pieces. If there is something specific that you're looking for, say now, and I will see if you find it.
Easily stolen money.
Easily stolen money. Right. Taking a look around, you spy out a variety of people, but one in particular comes to your attention. Somebody that appears to be potentially either a gnome or a halfling. They are not quite in the corner, but along one of the outer edge walls, sitting by themselves with an open book in front of them and their head in their arms, seemingly asleep. Obviously, a student of this place must have some degree of wealth on them.
Yes.
That appears to be the easiest mark of the area. The only thing that gives you doubt is the fact that this particular individual, unlike many of the others here, doesn't appear to be in the typical black-robed uniform that you've come to associate with people of the Alabaster Lyceum. The equipment that they're wearing appears to be largely of a red motif, but from this distance of the room, that's the only real major detail that you're able to make out at this point. So, as you approach closer and closer, making sure to avoid people walking into you, I'd like you to quickly roll me a general dexterity check, please. Not a saving throw, just a check. Effortless. You slip along the area, relying on the general bustle and noise of the room to hide your footsteps as you slip around various individuals. At one point, you even manage to deftly weave your way through the center of a crowd of students walking along. There's no particular reason for you to do so, you just felt like showing off to literally no one. But you do it masterfully regardless.
I find any gold on the way.
As a matter of fact, roll me a sleight of hand. Again, no issues at all. You're invisible. They're distracted. You quickly pluck your hands down into their pockets and you find a wand.
Ooh.
Curious. And in the next one, you find a small notebook. And in the third, a coin pouch. All of which turn invisible the moment your hand touches them, of course. Go ahead and add those to your character sheet.
Wand. Notebook. Coin pouch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And from there, you make your way over to your designated mark. As you approach to within a much closer distance, no more than 10 feet away, you see that this appears to be a male halfling. Red of hair as is their cloak. They appear to be in a garb that would denote some form of outerwear, a coat of sorts, which seems to conceal their other clothing, which appears to be otherwise conventional. No armor or anything to that effect. Quickly glancing over to the book that they have open, do you speak halfling?
Common, Elven, and Dwarvish. No.
Unfortunate. Your understanding of the Elvish script gives you the ability to recognize that this is halfling, but beyond that, you're not able to derive any kind of useful information from that. The halfling, gnomish, and elven languages share the same script, you see.
Cool.
And as you make your way over, describe to me precisely what you do. The large coat is otherwise obscuring what clothes they may be wearing underneath. You can tell that they are in some form of deep slumber by the fact that the general bustle of the room is apparently not disturbing them. You get the impression that this is probably going to be an easy pick, assuming you don't somehow rouse them from their slumber.
Yes. So, sorry, what was it about this person that made him what did I see they had? I mean,
the thing that attracted you to them is the simple fact that they are wearing bright clothing and are fast asleep.
Oh, it wasn't a
Generally
thing to
speaking.
take. It was just that they're defenseless. Got it.
Exactly. Investigating closer in, you're able to see that underneath the coat, which you're able to lift up and get a peek inside of, you can see that there appears to be a tome of some kind, hard backed with a clasp keeping it shut and attached to a belt upon this man's side. Next to that, you see a fairly standard looking piece of equipment for spellcasters, a component pouch, a useful little piece of kit that allows spellcasters to cast a variety of magics that would otherwise usually require an expensive spellcasting focus, or perhaps something even more valuable.
Oh.
In addition to that, you also see that on their left side, there is a fairly well-sealed pouch. A leather cord binds its aperture shut, but feeling it from the outside, grasping and groping at it with your hand, you can feel that there's something weighty in there. Not coin, but something. several somethings. I would say you can choose one of 3 options to go for. You can go for the tome, you can go for the component pouch, or you can go for what we'll describe as the mystery bag.
Game show. So this tome is just an ordinary tome, right? As far as I can tell.
From what you can tell, it appears to be quite conventional. The thing that is bringing it to your attention is the fact that it appears to be so securely affixed to the man's waist.
Hmm. And describe this mystery pouch?
About the size of a melon, you suspect, were it to be extended to its maximum extent. The inside of it currently is about half that size and appears to have a reasonable amount of heft to it. You would imagine anywhere between 1 to 2 pounds worth of stuff inside of it. The thick leather denotes that it's probably something worth protecting, and again, it's attached to the man's waist. A small leather cord is used to keep it shut, which is knotted into place in such a way that you suspect it would require at least a few seconds to open it. Something that you suspect you may be able to do, but then again, you could always just cut the thing open with a knife and grab whatever spills out.
How risky is it to open this?
Destructive or non-destructive?
Go with non-destructive.
If you slip up, it's attached to the man's body. Not medically, but with a cord.
Yeah.
If you were to mess up in opening it, there's a decent chance that they may suddenly awaken and start reacting, and then at that point, you're screwed. At the very least, you won't be able to get anything from him. However, regarding opening it up, it looks as though there's a fairly complicated knot in the leather cord that you could simply work your way through. And at that point, it's just a matter of lifting whatever may be inside.
All right, let's undo that knot.
Okay, I would say roll me a check of your choice, and depending on what you roll and the value that you roll with it, will determine your success here.
Okay. Sorry, just to be clear, what I'm doing wouldn't require a second step to take it, or would it?
No, the challenge here is getting it open without stirring what may or may not be a light sleeper.
Alright. Well, as much as I wish to justify performance, I think sleight of hand makes more sense.
Yes, it does. If you roll performance for this, you'd have to roll a nat 20 or fail. Okay. You are able to get a good look at this thing, but only from the perspective of being across the table from the man. In order to be able to open it without obviously opening the coat that he's wearing, you have to almost sit down beside him and move your arm in such a way to allow you to access the cord, but without having direct line of sight to it. And as a result, whilst you can get an idea as to what the knot looks like, you're just simply not able to dexterously move your hand in a way that you are confident that it's definitely open. You've pulled a few bits of the cord, made things tighter, made bits looser. You're not confident on this. He's still asleep, but this particular approach hasn't rendered any success.
Hmm. Trying to think of what would make sense as a follow-up decision here.
Well, although you have an hour in game, I'd appreciate it if you didn't take that long in person.
Yeah, I don't intend to. Okay, so apparently this is a pretty well secured thing because the 13 was inadequate for opening it. So which makes it honestly all the more appealing because something that's that secure is, abnormally well secured.
Some reasonable logic to go by.
So was that roll kind of like I don't know, sounds like a neutral result you could say? Like I didn't really accomplish anything, but nothing hurt.
I will say you weren't successful, but you didn't blow it. So
Right.
yeah, I suppose a neutral roll would be one way to describe it.
Yeah. All right. So, any particular reason I couldn't try it again if I didn't actually blow it?
You can try it again, but attempting to use the same approach and just simply taking a second attempt, you will have to roll higher, or at the very least roll decently, or else you will fuck something up. You can try for multiple attempts at the same approach, but effectively the difficulty of success increases with each attempt.
All right. Well, and then let's change the approach a bit and oh, that's it. I will acrobatically steal it from him. The angle was the problem.
Say that. You can't just say that. You have to explain to me precisely what you're doing.
I cartwheel over it to grab it.
That won't work.
Why not? I thought the angle was the issue.
The coat is open to the front, but not from above. The only way to do it is to either stand from the opposite side of the table and effectively look underneath the table to see it, or alternatively, to just simply sit next to him or stand next to him or something to that effect and reach around the coat.
You could always go under the table.
That's an option.
So I could basically take a stealth approach to this instead.
Everything that you're doing right now is stealth. The only reason I haven't asked you to roll a stealth check is because you already have invisibility active.
Yeah, okay. All right. No, that doesn't make sense either. I take that back.
No. Explain your thought, and I'll tell you if you've got a decent line of logic.
No, it made so little sense. I can't even put it together what I was starting to think. That like really didn't make sense. not oh, that's kind of dumb. Like no, that just doesn't make sense. Okay. Wow. Anyway. Sorry, I just kind of broke my own brain there for half a second. Anyway.
So, you're stood there.
So it's in front of him, so I'll roll in front of him to acrobatically grab it on my way through.
Okay, well, how about I make a suggestion?
Yes.
There is a table in front of him that he's lying down on. And by looking underneath the table, you are able to see the pouch.
Yes.
Why don't you acrobatically lean back in such a way that you're using your core strength to maintain your position directly in front of him, whilst using both hands to open up the pouch.
Perfect.
Roll me acrobatics. You're able to get into position as described, and you make your way forwards with your hands, and even though you're literally upside down whilst doing this, using your legs pressed against the floor in order to hold up your effectively planking position, it's not easy. And you are able to make some more progress on the knot, but not before your core muscles begin to give out, and you have to abandon this approach before successfully opening the pouch, but you suspect that you're nearly there.
Alright, so I loosened it, basically?
Effectively, yes.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just... Go on.
You've either loosened the opening or potentially loosened it off the side of him. You're unsure.
Which means I could probably try to finish this up with just an ordinary sleight of hand, basically the original approach, but now that it's easier.
Could do. Want to give it a try?
Yes.
Okay.
Sleight of hand.
Go ahead and make your roll. As with your previous rolls when making your way through this cafeteria, you take a different approach. You sit down beside him once more, and this time, instead of attempting to go directly for the knot, you use your dexterous half-elven fingers to feel around the side of the bag's aperture and feel what appears to be some kind of clasp holding the bag itself to the belt that is around the man's waist. And whilst this isn't the approach that you were originally taking, this approach seems to be the right way to go. And on doing that clasp, you feel the weight of the bag suddenly release from the man's clothing and into your grasp. And you're able to take the bag out from underneath him, and by the time it's no longer concealed by his coat, your invisibility spell has rendered it invisible too.
Alright. That works.
As you step away from him, you spot that a passing student of some kind holding a mug of some presumably hot liquid trips and drops the glass, spreading a hot deluge of probably coffee across the ground, but waking up your recently successfully targeted mark from his slumber. He quickly stirs from his sleep and looks over to see if there's anything that he needs to do to help, and promptly makes his way over and uses a casting of prestidigitation to clean up the mess, seemingly as a good-natured gesture.
Oh, what a nice guy! He just
Toilet.
left the other items behind so I could grab them and leave.
They were all attached to his belt, I'm afraid.
Oh, they were? Okay. So I thought the tome was something he was reading.
No. The tome was attached to him, as well as the component pouch and whatever this sack was.
Okay.
The actual book that he was reading, that's been left on the table.
Oh, okay, never mind. Anyway, as that trip happens, I'm basically already walking away, so I'm just leaving.
Well, by the time he's finished cleaning up the spill with some little magical gubbins, you hear some sounds of panic as he seemingly realizes that the valuable pouch attached to his left side is suddenly gone.
How interesting. I continue leaving.
So, you make your way out the door and retain your invisibility as you go. Where exactly do you end up, or are you just popping back into the bathroom?
I think I'm gonna leave if I can, back to wherever we stayed, so I can, what I'll just call our base for now to assess what I have
To the
gained.
Hogshead.
Yes.
Okay, sure. You quickly make your way back over, and you're able to get at least halfway there through the city before you can feel that your invisibility is about to naturally end.
Oh, it's that far away?
Yeah, it's a city.
Well, I know it's a city, but I didn't know how far away in the city we were.
Well, this is the University District, and you're staying in the Tourism District, which are two different sections of the city. It's, I suppose.
Okay, how long of a walk are we talking between them?
About 2 hours, I'd say.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I would definitely get out of invisibility, somewhere on the way.
Yeah,
Safely
you're
then.
able to find a nice secluded spot to be able to duck into before ending your invisibility.
Yes.
What is noteworthy is that the gateway that you would have had to have passed through, you were able to use your invisibility to pass through there simply by stealthily being near another passing individual as they made their way through the checkpoint.
How convenient.
It's a good job that they don't have any kind of perpetually active dispelling effects.
Yes.
Well, they probably couldn't
anyway.
in a city like this because it would mess up all of the magical items and artifacts people are using.
I was thinking that would be a serious issue for a magical university to have a spell dispeller that everyone has to go through.
Yeah, and all the wealthy people that have got glamours and all sorts of other magical stuff to make them look nice.
Yeah. Well, before doing the crimes at all, I considered if there was some anti-magic stuff in play, but I figured that didn't make any sense.
It is worth pointing out that such security features do exist under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, low security environments don't have such things.
Right.
But anyway, once you are back at the Hog's Head, I presume you just make your way back up to the room that you have booked in and open up the pouch. Inside the pouch, you see a small smattering of valuable items. First of all, you see a pearl. Get the impression that this thing has a decent amount of value to it. It's perfectly spherical, a bit smaller than a ping pong ball, you'd have to guess, but is otherwise immaculate in its quality.
Goodness, valuable enough for a item identification spell.
Potentially. You'd estimate its value to be at least 100 gold pieces. Next to that, you see a diamond. Give me just a moment. I just need to double check something. The diamond is small. It's roughly cut, not a perfectly jewel-ready kind of look to it. And if you had to guess, you'd say it's about half an inch across. Something of this quality is worth about 50 gold, you'd say. And the last item that you find is something that you don't quite understand. It seems to be a potion of some kind, but it's far too small to be a potion. You lift it up and hold it to the light of the window and see that this material appears to have a kind of yellowish powder-like look to it. It's not quite a powder, though. It seems a bit off for that. Have you ever seen that old Magic Sand product?
Yes, I think.
Yeah,
the hydrophobic sand. Yeah. Kind of acts like that. It's got some fluid in it, and whilst it's under the fluid, it seems to clump together, but the stuff that isn't inside the fluid is apparently free-flowing, as a dry sand might expect to be. In either case, there's something odd about this, but you don't have any means to be able to identify it immediately. The vial itself is about an inch thick and about 3 inches long, with a rubber stopper in the top, thoroughly sealing it. Depending on the value of the powder in this vial, well, you've netted yourself at least 200 gold pieces here.
Cool. Okay. So as far as what I needed to write down, I kind of was forgetting until almost the end there that I should be writing this stuff down. There was the diamond, worth about 50 gold. There's the powdery unspecified potion. What else should I have written down?
Large pearl, worth 100 gold.
Ah.
Yep.
But the pearl's actually the real fucking diamond there,
Okay.
so to speak.
Large pearl,
Because
100 gold.
The pearl's an identify. It sounds like it's capable of being used as a...
I think it needs to be. Is it 100 or? Yeah, it is 100 gold for identify. Sorry, I was about to say it was 1,000, but no.
Nope.
So there's the
Now
diamond,
you're-
the potion, and the pearl?
Diamond, potion, and pearl.
Cool.
Sounds like a pub at a D&D convention.
Yes.
So, Essig has scarpered off with what appears to be the valuable components of some poor now deprived wizard.
Fair enough.
So,
On him.
I'm sure Essig will get round to sharing the spoils of his escapade at some point.
That's up to him.
What do the rest of the party want to do now that that's all come to its conclusion?
Right. As we've been there for about 20-25 minutes. So we've still got another half an hour or so on our ticket, so to speak,
I'd say so.
before Essek legs it out and the commotion happens in the cafeteria, and I'm assuming the soon-to-be shouts of thief.
As a matter of fact, no.
Huh.
It appears as though the person that Essig stole from is operating under the assumption that they must have misplaced their equipment, as they have certainly run out in a panic, but not shouting thief.
Well, before that happens, I will have headed to the area of the library to research the various different types of magic and how one becomes and the differences between wizards and sorcerers and warlocks, etc. Just doing some general sort of background research that may or may not come into use when I take my next level up.
Okay. I will give you the...
I'm sorry.
no, carry on.
No, you deal with Trick first.
Right, sir. At the end of the session, I will give you a overview of basically what you find as part of this investigation. Go ahead and roll me an investigation check to determine the quality of the information you're able to muster up. Could be better.
Could be better. Can I have advantage?
You have inspiration.
You know what? I do have inspiration. I'm going to take that inspiration. Very good point. And re-roll that. Investigation. It's
Slightly better.
Slightly better. Pretty average all in all.
Yeah.
But that can't be helped.
Well, I will bear that in mind. What was it that you wanted to cover us?
Whilst Trigger's doing his research, I'd like to use the time to do some research into song creation. In particular, I'm looking for ways to strengthen the effect of it, or make it be able to last for longer, be able to create more of them in a given time period, that sort of thing.
Right, so go ahead and give me an investigation check of your own. I will say that you do end up in roughly the same area as what Bobby was.
Well, in which case, I'm willing to give him a bardic inspiration if he wants to give one in return.
I can do that.
Sure. Go for it. Pair of you roll a d6.
All right. Now, Trig, if you don't like your first one, you get to re-roll it and then pick the one you prefer.
Interesting. Yes, of course. You know what? I'm going to do that.
Oh no!
You get to pick the one you prefer.
I'll take the 2. Damn.
Oh, that's so mean. Why do the dice have to do it that way?
The dice are like that on this one. It's okay.
So rolling both DM and bardic inspirations, you managed to bring an 8 to a 12.
With 12, indeed.
Whereas I think I got 24.
That's right. Cardguard got a total of 24 on his investigation check.
So I'm obviously clearly distracted by the previous conversation of dragons, and it has befuddled me.
Hmm.
Hey, look, I may not know what a dragon is, but I definitely know what a book is.
Apparently.
Uh,
So, Cardgar.
Yes.
Regarding methodology on how to improve your Song of Creation, it's something that people within the realm of magic of magic investigations have attempted to look into previously. It's a well-established fact that this ability to apparently temporarily apparate physical items is something that is quite unique to this particular field of magic. However, it appears as though that the only real way to improve your ability to utilize this Song of Creation is, well, basically to just practice at it. Certain bards who practice at this particular methodology of Song of Creation do eventually gain greater capacity in it. Some of them being able to figure out how to make their creations persist for greater amounts of time, with one particularly gifted individual figuring out how to make his creations much smaller, but in exchange for that sacrifice, make them last seemingly perpetually. However, outside of various givings and takings and making sacrifices in one area to gain advantage in the other, it appears as though the Song of Creation is somewhat limited in its ability to create physical goods.
So, am I right in saying that the takeaway I got from that is if I think about trying to make things smaller, they may last longer, and make them bigger, then they will last less time?
Potentially, that's what one listed example of a Song of Creation bard was able to achieve. Depending on the exact nature of the song writing, if you will, it's creative interpretation, if you will. Different bards are able to tune the Song of Creation to try and aim for different goals and final effects.
Okay, I'd like
Given
to
that
try and
you're
take notes on that.
sure, you absolutely can, and later on you can try doing investigations on how you can play around with the exact nature of the song to try and manipulate the effects to your particular desires.
All right.
This is a flowery and descriptive way of saying I'd be willing to work with you out of session to try and modify Cardgar's mastery of the Song of Creation to better fit what you're trying to go for with his overall character progression.
Okay.
Or
That
poor
sounds good.
Cardgar goes to research how to improve his skills. Finds a book that says "Get Good."
it did.
Find a
It
book
did
saying
really
level
did
up.
say "get good, noob," didn't it?
Yeah.
So that was my takeaway from that.
I mean, that's certainly one interpretation. A slightly less mean interpretation is practice makes perfect.
But I did come away with a potential alternative way of doing it that I
Indeed.
might be able to learn. In all of this, is Reeve still with us?
Reeve was
Reeve?
with Kiki, wasn't
Yeah, we
Yeah.
went off to study
Reeve is Piper.
how to make magical items.
Speaking of, I wouldn't say that there's a whole lot of time left on your stay within the library, but from that point of finishing your personal investigations, Reeve and Piper, you would estimate that you have about 10-15 minutes left. There's probably not a whole lot of investigation you can get done in that time, but you could see what you can do.
I mean, we're not going to waste like 10%, 20% of our 16% of our time doing nothing.
Okay, so what do you do then?
I mean, I just want to make as meticulous and detailed notes as I can from this, so that we've got something to work off when we're outside of the library. I also am quite interested to know whether we get kicked out of the library when we run out of time, or whether it's just that our pass expires and we can't enter.
Well, you have a handy dandy voice in the back of your head that you could always consult for these things.
Yeah, you know what? I will ask the voice.
Asking the voice what happens when the time expires. The voice says that you'll be given a 5-minute grace period to exit the library, after which there's an intentional shift in tone, at which point it says you will be incentivized to leave.
Right, so we've got plenty of time, actually. We've got 10 minutes to do this research, and then we've got 5 minutes to leave. That's fine. Yeah, I'm going to just make as meticulous notes as possible. I want to make sure I've got all the details I would need in order to know what I'm looking for when we go plane hopping, what kind of things to keep an eye out for, and what I would need to harvest as we go off on our various adventures in order to make pocket dimensions, essentially.
Righto.
And
So-
once I get the 5-minute warning, I will make my way towards the exit.
Okay. As Piper is doing that, Reeve, is there anything else that you want to use make use of with these last 10-15 minutes that you have here? I presume Piper would inform you of what she heard when asking the voice in the back of her head what happens if you overstay your welcome.
I think Reeve would mostly be looking into musicians and stuff, because the whole reason he left Knobblesgate in the first place was because he wanted to travel, get out of the town he's always known and see the world of Bards. So you might want to look into famous musicians from the land, learn everything you can about them.
Right,
Well,
okay.
Cliff Notes version.
Well, I would presume that you would just outright ask, are there any books on day? Which, as it turns out, the voice in the back of your head directs you to a different section of the library, which covers information on notable individuals, and guides your curious hand towards a particular tome, which is a somewhat of a biography, not an autobiography, but a standard biography of the very same individual known as Day. Taking a quick look through it, you're able to get a vague understanding as to what the contents might be through looking through the table of contents. For example, it states that it appears as though this individual worked for a period as a surprisingly enough, as a police interrogator. Apparently making a decent chunk of money on that and befriending a dragonborn paladin investigator who, the pair of them, proceeded to utilize their bardic and paladin-based abilities in the investigation and solving of some of the more noteworthy crime rings that would take place in the seedier parts of the city. Besides that, it states that the pair of them soon, after several years of working together, wandered off away from the city and were largely unheard of until they arrived back suddenly, accompanied by a rarely seen earthen elemental, having apparently discovered a ancient city that was once located beneath the lake that now makes up the Great Lake of Varpak. In addition to that, it simply states that this day individual went traveling about the world, exploring various locations, and the writer of this biography was able to gather some information and noted those stories down. That Reeve isn't able to go into detail regarding these stories. But most notably of all, it ends with a description of how they went traveling alone, and seemingly did so somewhat recently. The book is dated to only 3 years or so before the current date. So, that's the information that you were able to find there. And unfortunately, you're not able to get much more information before a small ping is felt in the back of your head, accompanied by a message which says, "Your time within the library has expired. Please vacate within the next 5 minutes, or face consequences."
We all get that, do we?
You will get that at roughly the same time, yeah. Except for Essie, of course.
It's just, if everyone's okay, can I suggest, because you skipped over Motch earlier, if she wants to do one more thing, maybe she could have been doing while we were doing all the dragon thing.
Well, the thing that Motch was investigating earlier was done as remind me, what was it that Motch was investigating earlier? Well, Reeve?
I was helping Piper with the magical thing, wasn't I?
Oh yes,
yeah.
that's right. Reeve never actually ended up doing his own thing, did he?
No. Not so much.
Right. Good call. In that case, I would say choose another topic to investigate. Unless you want to do a thorough reading of the book that you've got here.
Maybe give Reeve a thorough reading of that one.
Alrighty. Yeah, I will add in some additional information post session there, going into further detail as to the nature of this biography written here.
Nice.
I will say that you're able to find that the book is signed by a one Kildar Hydron. So, I'll explain to you the information on that after the session, assuming you're around after the session.
I don't know about you guys, session-wise, but it is like 20 past midnight, and I have work in the morning.
Righto, we'll start wrapping this up then. What do you guys want to get done in the next, say, 10-15 minutes real time?
Can we find someone who might have a prototype bag of holding that we could get on the Jeep?
I'm gonna say no to that one. You'd have to go to somewhere much more seedy than Varpak for that kind of thing. Maybe the markets of Port Manly would be able to.
I meant more of like a student's final project.
No, that's not the kind of thing that you're likely to find. I'd say roll me an investigation check, and maybe you'll get very lucky.
I mean, it could happen. 15.
Afraid not. You're
Anyone feel like inspiring me?
You can have one of mine.
All right. Well, at least I'm consistent.
You are consistent, except for that one time you rolled a 24.
That never happened.
So, I suppose in a way you are consistently inconsistent. But in either case, you're not able to find any students working on prototype bags of holding or things of that nature. You are able to find one student who is seemingly extremely enthusiastic about describing to you a special bag of holding that they are looking to get a hold of, a one bag of holding, which appears to be a bag of holding that has a temporal lock on the dimensional pocket that it connects to, allowing you to effectively preserve things by placing them inside.
Do I learn from him where one can get one of these? I mean, if a student can afford it, it can't be that expensive.
He can't afford it. He said he was looking to find one, not that he had one.
Oh. Find one where?
That's where he looks at you and says, "Well, if I knew that, I'd have one."
Grumble.
He grumbles too. So, let's wrap up by me giving you the following information. The rest of the session that we're playing today concludes with the party arriving back at the Hog's Head Inn after a long and arduous day of fucking around in the city and eventually ending up at the University District, having agreed to eventually go on some expeditionary forces with the some expeditions, I guess. I don't really know how to describe that. On behalf of the one Lysander. And after that, doing some investigations in the library. The evening is spent with the party being expeditionary excursions. Very good. Thank you very much, Ez. Yes, the rest of the evening is spent with the party preparing for the upcoming do of sorts, the little posh get-together that is going to be the basis of the investment that you made with the Thieves Guild those several days ago. At that evening, Piper, you receive a package filled with a selection of 200 leaflets, 100 of the first variety and 100 of the second that you sent to me last week.
Fantastic.
With that said, is there anything that you feel I may have forgotten or failed to cover, or shall we bring us an end to things here?
I think we will basically have a long rest and call it there at this point. Unless anyone's got anything else, I don't think I have.
I would like to ask for one thing before we wrap up.
Oh.
Can I attempt to pen a song about the lost dragon?
The dragon the Cardgar is convinced exists, but has yet to find any true evidence of.
Yes.
Sure. Go ahead. I'd say you don't need to roll for this. You can write a ballad of lamentations, if you will.
Okay.
So, Trig.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything in particular that we need to cover from here on out, so if you want to bring an end to the stream.
I will do exactly that. Give me...
I do apologize about today's session. It was a bit boring, a bit quiet, a bit subdued. But lots of potentially interesting information has been gathered in this particular
Not at
play,
all.
I'd say.
It has essentially been a day of 2 sessions, which has been basically not exactly shopping, but sort of.
Yeah.
Right, I'll end the session now and say goodnight from me and anybody else. And
See ya.
catch you next week.
Good night to all those listening.